The worst 99 game ever. Oh
A
shit.
completely missing texture for a number of seconds before it gradually loads in.
The balcony of that window is just the texture.
I'm walking around the same city for the 100th time, and I'm just constantly reminded of how it looks.
I have not played a Pokemon game in so long, to be honest. I don't even remember the last one I played. Because I didn't play any of the 3DS. I didn't play any of the Wii games. I didn't play any of the Switch games. And I'm not planning on playing the Switch 2 games. The last one I remember, probably Pikachu. I think Pikachu was the last, because I think it was red, blue, and I think it was Pikachu, right? And the only reason I played that was because I went back and emulated it a long time ago, which was easy. But I haven't played a Pokemon game in so long. It's crazy. It's crazy that they don't have any, at this point in time, that they still don't have voice acting in any of these games. And I still believe that the pixel art is 10 times better than any of the 3D characters.
I can't in good faith recommend anybody buy this game.
Now, I understand that the market right now for video games is pretty rough. That's one of the main reasons why video games that are free will always be more popular than anything else. I mean, I'm sure many of you would rather be playing Fortnite or Roblox as opposed to Family Guy the video game on the original Xbox.
Even then, it's because I think Pokemon is like, only because it's only as big as it's gotten because it was on like that Nintendo rise where it really got big, where a bunch of other companies did, because they made a couple really good games, and then they continued on that trend of making really good games, and then eventually like they hit a strong fallout afterwards, kind of like where I feel like a lot of people are saying even Mario is, because it's just the same. It's the same shtick over and over. It's basically beating a dead horse at that point, you know. You beat Princess Peach gets captured, you go get her back, you defeat Bowser, game over. And it's been like that, and I guess it's the same thing for Pokemon games for like the longest time. It's the same concept. But this one, I feel like this game even like now is just bad, only because there's no new Pokemon. The only thing that's new is the area, and even then, it's just, like, really shit. It doesn't even look good. Like, there's nothing new to bring to the table, except for, like, new Mega Evolutions. Which, yeah, that's what people were dying for. People were dying to have fucking new, just new Megas. Ugh.
And I could never think of a more expensive video game franchise than Pokemon. I get it, a lot of games that you probably played, they've got the microtransactions, but Pokemon, I will never understand. They will release the most mid entries imaginable that barely run. They look like a PowerPoint presentation.
Damn, that looks like ass, dude. And didn't they announce the DLC before the game even launched? I think they did, right? They announced the DLC before the game even had went off. That's crazy for anyone to do that.
Feel the community will lap it up.
Holy
and at the time of recording, a new Pokemon game is coming out, and it's apparently the most expensive Pokemon game to date. I'll be honest, to any of you that own like a Switch or a Switch 2, I genuinely feel sorry for you. You will have a game that is 7 years old, and they will still charge you $50 for it. I mean, half a year ago, the news actually broke.
Nintendo Switch 2 games will cost up to $98 for physical games when converted from euros. Jesus Christ. Basically $100 game is, oh man, bro, everything's going so up, bro. Pricing is crazy. I don't even like to buy games now because of everything is so expensive.
Broke out regarding the Switch 2 that some of the games on there could cost upwards of $80. And then for a physical version, for the 7 people that still care about that, it'd be $90. That is on top of buying a console that is £400.
It's crazy that they made the physical version far more expensive than the digital version. I feel like the roles should have been reversed, or should have just never been implemented to begin with. Because that's crazy to add like what, an extra $10 to the physical copy of the game just because you want to have it. It's crazy that they just increase the price like that for something so small.
And then also not to include as well the online membership, which is around £18 a year. Although that as well can go up
God damn. Well, £18. Wait.
to upwards of £60. And look, I get it, all right? The console market, it's absolutely washed. Honestly, if you want to blame anyone right now, you blame Microsoft.
Because they increased their prices. They recently increased the price for the Ultimate, for it's $30 now. Crazy.
Microsoft were the first people to invent Xbox Live, a paid online service to, you know, talk to more people, game with more people, and then Sony saw that it was normalized, they copied it, and Nintendo obviously followed suit. But I am going to leave Xbox out of this video, mostly because they have no games. They have negative games. They remove games from the library. I always make this joke that, like, you know, PS5 has no...
Yeah, it's mostly indie games though, but I mean, you can't say that it's all bad. I mean, you get what you pay for, right? You know, like, it's as bad as it is. I'm not going to defend the fact that Xbox increased their prices, but if they do intend to increase the amount of games per like month or whatever, there's somewhat evening out, but not really. It's just $10 more, and it's just way overpriced. And I paid for Ultimate. You know, I have Xbox Ultimate. I have an Xbox. I play it pretty often. It's where I stream most of my games. So for them to charge it up, but for me, it's not a big problem because I work. So you know, I'm like, yeah, whatever. And I don't spend money often, so I don't. At least to me, it's not a big problem. But for someone else who probably doesn't work or is probably living off an allowance, it's probably gonna. It has to suck for them too.
Games. Xbox has negative games. Now, I'm sure you've already seen the critical video where he said that he's outright refusing to buy the new Pokemon game, which is ZA. And if you want to buy that game...
Most critical is that he doesn't want to buy a Switch. He doesn't want to buy... He just doesn't want to buy a Switch, period. Until until Nintendo gets a grip on their balls and fix shit. Because this is just... It's not even... you can't even call it a fucking sequel. It's just a remaster of something that's already... Something that was okay, and they made it dog shit. They just replaced it and didn't make anything... Like, hardly any new changes to it.
Game on the Switch, it is £60, and already there is a £30 DLC for the game. And keep in mind as well, this is a game that will take you around like 20 hours to complete. And that number is taken from professional gaming journalists like IGN, so... it's probably a bit less than that. And the thing is as well, technically, this isn't even a mainline Pokemon entry. It's kind of a spin-off, if anything. Like, could you imagine? Okay, so GTA...
Wait, did they say that really? I didn't know that. I don't pay attention to Pokemon. I don't pay attention to Nintendo, so I didn't even know that this was a sequel.
6, right? That's going to cost all of us a lot of money. You're still going to buy it. You're probably going to buy it on console, and then you're going to buy it on PC 2 years later, you degenerate. But could you imagine instead if Rockstar, instead of announcing GTA 6, they announced like GTA Chinatown Wars 2, that game that was on the DS, and then they're charging you £60 for it?
I played this game, and I'm pretty sure I enjoyed it. I played this. I remember this. I remember this game. And it was... I can't remember because I was such a little kid. And I already have, like, shitty memory. But it's good. I do recall liking this game.
Now... For such an egregiously expensive game, you would think, okay, wait a minute. Surely the game itself is actually good. Well, at the minute, I have seen from the public consensus that there is no way in hell I am dropping upwards of £500 to play a Pokemon game. I mean, honestly, at this point, it's part and parcel with Pokemon games. Choppy frame rate, the camera staggering very frequently.
This looks so ass, dude. This shit looks like a mobile game. I'm shocked. Pokemon Go was 10 times better looking than this shit.
frequently, and even like playing some moves in battle just causes the frames to absolutely dip. Now, from what I've seen, they've actually changed the battle mechanics, which do look, you know, to be fair, a lot better than the original turn-based system they've been running since, like, I don't know, the 90s. Instead of using PP, that's the actual name, by the way, I'm sure no correlation to prestige points in Dead Rising, but instead of that system, they now have a cooldown system.
It's like Digimon, where they can attack for you. Well, where you can just move around and they'll attack.
If anything, this reminds me of the combat system from Ni no Kuni, Wrath of the White Witch. Unironically, it has a much better take on creatures battling each other than Pokemon ever did. I mean, let's be real, do Pokemon even need to try anymore? Do Game Freak even need to try? No, because Pokemon is now more popular than ever, thanks to scalpers that will go into any kind of supermarket and buy.
God, I seen this fucking video. I seen this video earlier, and I was like, oh my gosh. I think it was titled that they're using their kids as a way to just like normalize them buying bulk of Pokemon cards. It is so sad. This whole shit, this whole shenanigan that they got on. It's so sad that people can't even get into the hobby anymore because it's so expensive now, and for obvious reasons.
Buy every single new release deck, sit on it, and hoping they can make $5 profit in 20 years. Now,
holy crap, they're just, god damn, dude.
Now, with that positive thing said, which is not really that positive to be fair, people are saying the gameplay is just, it's boring. And I get it, you've got this franchise where people go out in the woods and they throw a funny ball and they catch the funny animal, and there's not really too many variations you can do on that. But again, compared to previous games, there is little to no change in how, for example, you traverse the world. Now, the game itself, like any open world Bethesda sandbox, is littered with like the most boring side quests imaginable. And I think it's very safe to say here, if this wasn't a Pokemon game, no one would care. No one.
Pokemon is basically Microsoft's equivalent of Call of Duty. They know that it doesn't matter if they produce slop. They just know that people are just going to buy it because of its title, because of its like franchise, because of how popular it is. So I see like Mario and Pokemon in the same way that I would see COD, because they're both ass. And they're not progressing in any way, shape, or form. And it sucks because these are great franchises. They have a lot of like connections, a lot of roles. And it sucks because Pokemon used to be really good and Call of Duty used to be really good. And it's so sad to see that they just plummeted in the same pattern.
Would buy this. It is basically a game that is just sat entirely on the Pokemon brand. Now, a lot of worries the Nintendo community had when the game was announced, apart from realizing that they might have to lease their house just to buy a Switch 2, was the fact that Pokemon ZA basically only seems to really take place inside one single city. This is Lumio.
It's supposed to be like a representation of London, I think, or I don't know if it's London or France. It's one of the two, but it's supposed to be representation of that
city. And honestly, I mean, I don't really see that much of a problem with it. I mean, a great example here, right, is a game I've been sweating recently, Dying Light the Beast. I know that's nothing.
It's the fact that it's one region and that there's nowhere else to go. Like in Pokemon, and even in the older games, you had an underground area, you could surf on the water, they took you to the mountains. You had all kinds of different places to go, and in this game specifically, you have one area, and then that's it. You don't have anywhere else to go but this area, and the only thing you really have is the ground and the roof. And every time I see Pokemon clips of this game, it's just people rolling on the roofs.
Compared to Pokemon, like, at all. But in that game, there was only really one town, and it was incredibly small. It was densely packed. There was a lot to do, a lot of side content, but it was small. And then I kind of thought to myself, where's the biggest city? Where's like the parkour? But that wasn't the point of Dying Light the Beast. It was basically trying to replicate Dying Light the following.
I should play Dying Light. I haven't even played Dying Light 1. I should really get into it. I heard it's a really great franchise. I have to get into that game. It looks fun too. I need to buy it eventually.
the DLC of the original game, where that was more vehicle-based and also it was kind of more like open plains areas. And honestly, Dying Light the Beast was an amazing game. Dying Light 1, I love. The Beast, I love. Dying Light 2, I honestly never got around to finishing that game. Apparently, most people never did as well. But again, if you have smaller environments that are more kind of compact and there's more going on, that's not really a bad thing. Okay, here's another example I can think of, right?
You had if I remember correctly, you had villages too, right? You had other towns to go to instead of just one town. So you would progress through the grass and just go from town to town. Like catching new Pokemon in the grass and like shinies in the way too. So it was pretty good. Like you had, in the old games, you had a lot of time to play between them. Like if this game only takes 20 hours to beat, the old games probably take at least 25 to 30 hours. If you weren't bum rushing it, right? If you wanted to make sure your Pokemon were stacked to the brim like I did, then yeah, you would want to.
Fear and Hunger, right? It's got a sequel called Fear and Hunger Termina. And that takes place mostly within this city called Prehiville. But the differences between Termina and the new Pokemon game is the city of Luminos is not interesting to explore at all. Now, I get it, comparing Fear and Hunger and Pokemon, it sounds like a bit of a cope. It definitely is a cope. I'm just trying to somehow shoehorn this into the video. But a good example with Luminos is pretty much all the buildings. You can't really go into any of them. And
oh yeah, you can't go into any of these buildings. Everything is spray painted from the windows to the doors to any decorations. All of it is just spray painted onto the building. And there's no... I'm telling you, the only place you can traverse throughout this entire game is the ground floor and the roof. They even have all these stairs so you can just explore the roof.
And for a city that wipes out a good 95% of the exploration, again, in Fear and Hunger Termina, in Dying Light the Beast, I get it, they are not the same games at all, but they still had like very kind of small, compact towns, and there was so much to do in those areas. They weren't just empty buildings for the sake of it. Now, they do have these small areas in the new Pokemon game called Wild Zones, and players can explore those if they want like a break from the city. But again, these areas are incredibly small, and there's really not much going on there. According to one player as well...
That is so fucking stupid, bro. Why even do that? I feel like the level system should be able to be strong enough to hold you accountable of that, because I don't believe in the older Pokemon games. If you wanted to get around to new areas, I believe that all you got to do is just defeat the gym leader and then you could progress forward. So there was some barrier holding you back, but it was never this bad. It was never this fucking bad.
Well, you can actually run around the circumference of the entire map in less than 7 minutes. Again, I'm not trying to make the argument that because the game isn't bigger, more inflated, you could say, that it's bad. I mean, I prefer much more kind of like linear, tight, compact experiences. But it's like you've got the worst of both worlds. You've got a small area and there's nothing to do there. And so what you're left with is the main city where like nothing happens. I mean, you can see footage here. Like there is zero exploration to be...
Look how dog shit that is. Look how bad that is. The textures on this roof, on this wall right here, didn't even all the way come through. How? How is that possible?
Done here. And this isn't me like attacking the art style or anything. I get it, you know, it's a Pokemon game, so the graphics are just meh. It looks like a game that was released in 2014 or a like very high-end mobile game.
That's crazy. That's night and day.
Again, there is such a lack of depth in the world here. I mean, everything here just looks incredibly flat and boring. Now, I did also see some people attack Game Freak for having yet another Pokemon game with no voice acting. But honestly, I think that's just standard.
What? Is that real? Is that real? They have a character singing but no voice coming out? Nothing? How? What the fuck? How do you sell that? What?
At this point, it's the same as like the Zelda games. They'll have like, you know, 7 lines of spoken dialogue in the entire game. I mean, it's one of the reasons why, for example, Fortnite is so successful. Most of their trailers have no voice acting because, again, you'll need to regionalize it to English, Spanish, Chinese. Like there's so many different languages, and that's so like That takes an incredible amount of time and money. So that's why, you know, the meta right now, if you want your game to be successful, have characters that say absolutely nothing or just text appears on screen. Another thing I've seen
I hate that. I really do hate that. I hate I hate text that come up from the screen. I do not like that. I don't like having to sit there and read all the dialogue. I hate having to read basically a fucking dictionary of a game that's like a reading implemented in my game. I want to be able to hear the characters' expressions. I don't like having to sit there and read. Not that reading is bad, but you start to start skipping, and then you read past. You don't even read past the dialogue. You just skip everything.
A lot of people complain about is the story. Again, if you're paying £60 for a Pokemon game's lore and story, that's kind of on you. I have never seen anyone break down Pokemon's lore and find any...
That is true. That is very, very true. None of the games I don't believe are connected. None of the characters are connected in any... God damn, this is a frame. Any way, shape, or form. So, lore-wise, it's weird. But I mean, some Pokemon have background, but I think that's only like the anime.
Anything remotely interesting there. I mean, honestly, what they should do at this point is make a Pokemon game where you're sat in a shopping center fighting off scalpers. That would have some amazing lore. You know, in every Pokemon game, you'll play some random trainer that wants to collect all the badges, or he's got like a family member or a friend that he has a competition with. They also might want to stop any kind of like bad team, some kind of offshoot of Team Rocket that wants to, you know, stop the Pokemon or control them and then become the king of the Pokemon, you know, whatever. Honestly, out of anything I've seen, the deepest lore I've ever seen in the Pokemon...
The first Pokemon movie.
...franchise is probably the Pokemon movie with Mewtwo in it. Again, it's never been like the most cutting-edge narrative in gaming. It's usually a very basic story, so they can push copies that teaches, you know, about like the importance of friendship or like perseverance. But in Pokemon Legends ZA, this could not be further from the truth. So there isn't an insane amount of coverage on the story so far, but from what I gathered, you're basically working for like a loan shark syndicate to pay...
Oh my god, oh my goodness, yeah, I heard. Okay, I'm gonna just play it out so then people can understand.
...off your debt. And this debt was placed on your leader through pretty much scamming people. It was also added as well that this debt apparently has an interest of 1,000% a week. So basically any American healthcare imaginable. And to pay it off, you basically give up your life for them to work with them for an unspecified amount of time. Now, before you type in the comments, I get it, you know...
How... Isn't... Am I tripping or is that not indoctrinating? No, right? I don't think it is. Maybe I'm tripping. I think I'm getting the word wrong, but I believe no. I'm definitely wrong. That's crazy though. They're explaining to you that you're already broke before you even get to even explore the game. It's crazy work.
Pokemon has had some pretty bad villains before, but apparently these are the good guys now. I mean, to be fair, let's be real. Like, having Nintendo design debt collectors to be the good guys, that's definitely some dramatic irony there. I know I've gone on this rant before, but if anything, it reminds me of when Nintendo tried to start this bizarre MCN where, like, if you played their games, they would, like, claim your videos, even though you're basically giving them free promotion, and you'd have to join, like, a Nintendo program to get, like, a slither of that ad revenue back from a game that you covered. I mean, I've made this point before, but for example, Video Game Donkey, who's Nintendo's biggest gobbler, like, even he was, like...
Jesus, man. Nintendo is super serious with the copyrights of their property. Anything that has any relations to Nintendo on YouTube, they will find a way to get that video shut down. I know that they have shut down thousands of videos in the past, especially that one channel. I don't remember the name, but he had like over 1,000 videos or something like that of just Nintendo music, I believe. And from my understanding, to use the Nintendo, there's a specific app for Nintendo Music, and I think you have to pay a subscription to use it. Now, I could be wrong, but I heard that was true. That's fucking insane. That is wicked wild, dude.
copyright claimed by Nintendo when he was like covering Super Mario Odyssey years ago, just because he wasn't part of that program. Thankfully, that program now, it was shut down, put into cold storage. What a terrible idea. I think the biggest problem with this new Pokemon game being so like painfully mid and just acceptable at best is like, it's not like they've had a good track record of these amazing games and this is the big flopper. This is just like part and parcel for normal Pokemon now. Now, allow me to do something incredibly embarrassing here and unleash my inner unk, but back in my day, when they had Pokemon on the Game Boy Advance or the Game Boy SP with the little flip screen, back then, Pokemon was peak. You know, even back then.
And it was good. Well, I mean, it was good, right? It was a simple game, and like the market wasn't bad for the Pokemon cards. If you wanted to get into it, you could have got into it. It was a simpler time. I'm not that old, but still, that my cousin had a Game Boy Advance, and I'm sure he had a Pokemon game that I played on it. I believe so. It's crazy though. It is crazy.
Then as well, you had like the anime, you had the films, obviously the trading cards. We still have the trading cards, but they're mostly owned by scalpers now. And at that point, they could basically get away with selling like 2 or 3 versions of the exact same game. Like the original games that I played as a kid. You had like Pokemon Red, Blue, Green, and they pretty much were the same game. It was just like the starting Pokemon was different. That was it. But because the games were so...
Could you imagine if they did like a remaster of Gold, Red, Blue, and Pikachu in 2025 or 2026? That'd be pretty crazy.
So good back then, and they stood out so much. Some people would sweat it and they would buy every single version. And then on top of that as well, like I mentioned with the colored versions, you had like Blue, which had like bug fixes and stuff and actually improved on the original games. Mostly because back then you didn't really have like, day one patches that are 60 gigabytes. And Pokemon itself is an enormous, like, monolithic brand at the minute. But unfortunately, it does seem...
I believe they're like within like the top 5 most popular iconic characters or iconic like brand or whatever. I believe they're like within the top 5. They're either like 4 or 3. Well, I don't remember exactly, or they could be first. I have no idea. I believe that I looked at a chart like a month ago, and they were pretty high. They were pretty high up there, They're iconic. Again, Pokemon has been going for a long ass time. They're higher than any other card game. They're higher than Yu-Gi-Oh. They're higher than what's that one card game that Moist Critical really likes to play? Basically, they're the biggest of the biggest, and for them to deliver slop is sad like this.
Especially in the games department, they've got incredibly just complicit and just very lazy with their games. The amount of times I've seen someone play any kind of Pokemon game on the Switch and it just runs at like 7 frames a second. I mean, for example, going back to Scarlet and Violet, that was a buggy mess on release. A lot of fans also felt let down by...
That is fucking awful, dude.
Pokemon Sword and Shield. But there were other games like Sun and Moon, which had kind of a mixed reception, but generally more positive. Meaning that the last mainline Pokemon game...
Because Sun and Moon still had personality, bro. Sun and Moon still had plenty of personality and was still a good game, considered by its, a divided group of people.
Entry that was actually loved came out in 2016, nearly 10 years ago. There's even a large chunk of the fan base that think that Pokemon just entirely fell off when they transitioned from 2D games to 3D games, and that was all the way back in 2013. Now, I do have to admit the elephant in the room. A lot of people that don't like Pokemon at the minute, they are a mix of Redditors and nostalgia merchants. The new thing is le bad, because I did not grow up with that. Old thing good, new thing le bad. And I do understand that argument.
I'm not a Redditor, so I'd have to be on more the nostalgic side. But even then, I didn't play as many Pokemon games growing up. Like I said, the last one I touched was an emulated version of Pikachu. And that's a very old game. Those are old, ancient.
Fortunately, like, it has kind of infected my opinions on certain things as well. But these criticisms towards the mainline Pokemon games, they don't always come from just complete blind nostalgia. I mean, for example, like, graphically, I know graphics aren't really a big thing with games. Like, if they're enjoyable, it's fine. But the graphics have been consistently ugly and outdated in recent years. And you can't even cope saying that it's like running on a Nintendo Switch, which I guess has like less processing power than most mainline consoles and a PC. Because if you apply that cope, you'll see games like Zelda Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, and those were games that ran on the Switch, not at the best frame rate imaginable, but they still looked really good because they actually had a good, consistent style there. I mean, why do you think now there's been a huge resurgence in the indie scene of people that are just like playing, you know, PS1 graphics games? Because like, there is nostalgia there, but it's been stylized enough to actually...
PS1, I mean, all, like old school games are always gonna have like this peak style to them. It's crazy though, because even for, I think for me, which is Kingdom Hearts, from like, I don't even know to like even where to begin, because once the graphics on like 3 got just, old school games in general, I'm cutting that part out, but old school games in general always had a really nice stylized look, and it was amazing how they used to look, and it still is to this day, because a lot of them still look really, really freaking good, and that's not even just a nostalgic take. That is just that is purely true. You can look at those games and compare some of them from then and now, and a lot of the older games of that time just have this beauty to them that the current day and age just cannot recreate.
Look good without having to use Unreal Engine 5 again, and you play the game for 7 minutes and it crashes 9 times. I mean, you are always going to have this problem where it's like, if people buy a product, the people that make the product will not see anything wrong with it, and they'll just keep producing it, and that's the problem at the minute. I'm not gonna, sit on my expensive Herman Miller chair, sat here, and tell you, do not buy the new Pokemon game. Do not do it. I mean, if you enjoy Pokemon, sure, power to you. But personally, I cannot see that as a game that is worth spending £60 on in any...
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. It is your money. No one can tell you how to spend it. You work for it. It is your money. Quote unquote, your money. But if you're spending it on Pokemon games, you might need to have a license revoked of spending money, and you might need to get a financial advisor, because you're spending your money pretty stupidly, especially if you're spending $70. I haven't even spent $70 on a game in a while. I wanted to buy Battlefield, but I was like $70. And maybe I could wait on it. Maybe I could just wait for it to go on sale and then buy it then.
Capacity. I mean, a great example here is actually the post-game of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, or the, complete lack of it. A lot of people want to buy a game, they want to beat it, and then they want to keep playing the game. It's not like you've just paid £60 and then you've been like, okay, that's it. I just wait now for the new Pokemon game to come out. A lot of people do sweat games once they complete it, either doing like a new game on a harder difficulty, or I guess like a new game plus mode, which has become incredibly popular in the past 10 years. I mean, for example, you've got like Pokemon Gold and Silver, and once you beat the Elite Four and became Pokemon Master, you can then go back to Kanto, which is the region that the first game is set in. And then you can beat all the gyms from the first game, but now they're actually scaled up to face you on a higher level. Again, like kind of rewarding you with a bigger challenge. You can refight the Elite Four of the first game, and then even go ahead and fight Red, who is actually your character from the very first game. But post-game now seems to be just battling other people, catching Pokemon. Great, I get to sit in a field and wait 5 hours for a
I like that. I like that about games that have like extra little sauce at the very end of their games. I like that. I think that is a really nice touch, especially if you're running back on a game and you're just running back at it, and you notice a bunch of things that you may have missed, or extra cutscenes, or just missing dialogue that you just never picked up before, and now that this is your second time around, second, third, fourth, whatever it may be. It's cool. I like that. I like that about games that do that. That add just a little extra flavor. a little bit of salt, pepper, paprika, add whatever you're gonna add at the very end of the game, even after all is said and done, and you've already beat the main game. I think that's great for a game. I love that about developers who do that. They deserve a pat on the back for that. I'd agree.
Shiny Pokemon to appear so I can show 5 people on my Discord server. I'm going to make a very brave statement here, okay? When slop is slop, unsurprisingly, it's slop. No one cares. I mean, a great example, War of the Worlds. That film, oh my god, that was absolute slop. But that was like funny slop. That wasn't like a franchise that people cared about for decades and they grew up with, and then they felt betrayed when it was just absolutely abysmal. So yeah, I'd like to thank you for coming to my TED Talk. If any of you think I'm...
Yep. I think, I don't know. I believe that Nintendo seriously has to lock the fuck in. Because I've only heard bad things about the Switch 2, about how the Pokemon games still look like garbage. I like they seriously need to lock the fuck in, because if they're gonna want to make any changes within the industry, it's gonna take them a lot longer than it's gonna take a lot of other companies, Microsoft and PlayStation to be exact. But nice video.